But in our day, it's such an old story, happening so long ago in such a far-off place, that part of our struggle and witnessing is it's myth, it's fairy tale to a lot of people that are our friends. And let's dive right in. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 11 this morning. And today is the end of the beginning. Our series, which we're doing for a few months now, is the beginning and the end, the beginning chapters of the Bible, and how as a unit they kind of set the stage for what life will be and who God is and how we know him. And then at the very end, we see how God takes all of the threads and questions and wonderings and prophecies, and at the end, how he wraps it all together to bring humanity to its fullness and completion and to finally deliver us to himself, pure and perfect, as a full human race. And we see that at the end. And we, of course, live in the middle. We're doing life now where we have the promises of God and we know where we're headed, but we have the wars and the issues and the troubles and the questions and the doubts and the faith and the non-believers and the believers and going to church and not church and loving Jesus but not obeying and sometimes obeying. All that middle stuff, right? Our day-to-day lives. What we've been saying is when we understand where we came from and why God built what he did, when we really understand that and we really have a firm grasp on where we're headed, when we know the beginning and the end, it teaches us and deepens and helps us live life in the middle now. And I hope you've been seeing that through all of these weeks as we've gone. We're getting closer to the end of it. Today is the last message on the beginning. Genesis 11 wraps up the prologue, if you will, of the Bible. And I hope, as a side note, that you have appreciated or are coming to appreciate the beauty of the very Word of God as a piece of literature. I am growing in that. It is a book with 40 different human authors, 66 different individual books together, written from the first writing to the last writing, spanning 1,500 years of time. And there are threads and consistencies and touches that weave all the way through, that it is one whole, complete story, unbroken, uncontradictory in all of those things. It is an amazing piece of literature. And beyond that, it is also so succinct and clear that this book tells me everything I need to know about how to be human and live with God. Now, some of us say, oh, wow, that's a thick book, and you might have one with notes and it's bigger. Even if you have a big study Bible, oh, that's a big book. It's actually not when you think of the content it's saying. If you were to write down in words everything you need to know about God, I would imagine this to be a lot bigger, like volumes. Like we have encyclopedias and like whole shelves full of books about Earth. This contains everything I need to know about God. The succinctness of it. To write so perfectly that these few words can give me all of that, it's amazing. It's just, again, a piece of literature that is untouched by anything humans alone do. And we're diving into that and seeing that. And along with it, we read it to our kids. And they get to know God. And there are PhD level people still learning what it means. Like that's the ability and the depth of that piece of literature. So I hope you're there with me and just appreciating it as a book, even as we're learning about the truth of what it declares. And so some of what we're doing in this series is trying to get us there as well. So we are in Genesis chapter 11, the end of the beginning. Here's the story we're going to get into, the story that we all have heard of and know, the Tower of Babel, where a whole bunch of people come together and build a tower, and then their languages are confused. And what I want to tell you from the beginning is this story is not about how people went from living in the Middle East to living everywhere. Oh, that's why there's people in all these different continents. It's not really about that. That happens. That's not what it's about. And it's not about, oh, how did we get French and German and Chinese and Zimbabwean and English? How did we get those languages? Oh, this is how we got it. It's not what it's about. That happens, but it's not what it's about. So clear your mind of your beginning childhood ideas of this story. And as we've done with all of the beginning, let the depth and richness of the unfolding of human history come to you here at this sermon and this story of the Tower of Babel, because there really is whole life worth values and teachings here. So let's dive into it. Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as the people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. And let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth. Thank you, Lord, for your word this morning. All right, the first thing we need to tackle here is when this is happening, what's going on, as related to where we've been the last week or two. It says, now the whole earth had one language and the same words. So you read that first sentence, one language of all of humankind here. And if you jump back just a couple verses, and then the whole chapter 10, you see multiple peoples and multiple languages already in chapter 10. So you're saying, well, what's going on? Is this a different group of people or something like that? No, what's happening here is that Noah, the flood has happened, Noah gets off the boat, his 3 sons, their wives, and they are rebuilding, recreating humanity as God gave them the mandate for a new creation, subdue all the animals, fill the earth, multiply in it. So the new creation mandate. And what we have in chapter 10 is we have the story that tells us how the families coming from Noah and his kids, how those families grew. We have the genealogy of each of his 3 sons and all the peoples that came from them. And it goes on to tell us where they went. It gives us a description of where they went and how they lived after the flood. Where they went and how they lived. That's what it tells us in chapter 10. Chapter 11 does not follow chronologically. Chapter 11 goes back and tells them, what kind of people are these? It goes back to the beginning, back to when it's Noah and his kids and maybe a few generations all hanging out together. It goes back to that point. And where chapter 10 then tells us where they went, chapter 11 tells us who were they? What kind of people are these groups of families after the flood? So they are simultaneous in timeline, in chronology. Chapter 10 is kind of then tells a story from the same place. Where did they go? Chapter 11 is who are they? Do you understand? That's what's happening in 10 and 11. So don't get caught up in making it all chronological. Again, we read stories at a simplistic level, and we say chapter 2 follows 1, so 2 is after 1. This is not a drama story that way. It's not a crime mystery story. It's telling us about the people. So in one chapter, one aspect of them, and the second chapter, same timeline, a different aspect of them. So here in chapter 11, we are at the place where they are growing families but haven't moved away yet. So imagine yourself, right? It's kind of, they're it on the whole earth. So all this land around them, it's all empty. The flood's receded. It's Noah, his 3 sons, all their wives, and they have kids. So Noah built a house. It sets it up, and his 3 boys, just move on the compound. And one boy built a house there. They all build their houses around Dad's house, and they're all hanging out, farming together, doing life together. Then they have kids. And the kid's like, well, I'm just going to take the next plot of land next to my dad. And they just built around each other like families still do today, right? It's a natural thing. If you have all this land, you build houses on your property and expand your kind of household and family size. It's something that happens natural and normally. And so that's what's happening here. And we have generations and generations, and they've become a huge population of people. We don't know exactly when and which generation this all happens, but we see this huge generation of people. And as we're reading the story, again, this great piece of literature, Moses is writing it, and as the people are reading what Moses writes, what Moses is doing as he writes is in chapter 10, he's laying all these Easter eggs in there, all these little things that are supposed to make them think of other stuff. You read through chapter 10, and you guys did this last week, but if you go back and look at it, we see all these names that the people of Israel know. The people of Moses' day, the people of the nation of Israel, like after Moses, right, wandering in the desert, they hear names as they're wandering in the desert that Moses is talking about, back in Noah's time. or his son's times. And then when you think about the kings, King David and Solomon, you think about all that's going on with the kings later in Israel's history. They read names in chapter 10. Oh, wait, those are names that mean something to me now. There's all these little hints. We hear names like the Philistines, or where the Philistines come from. We hear in chapter 10. You know who the Philistines are? David and Goliath, right? He's a Philistine. So to David's day, Philistines was a huge issue. Oh, they came from here, chapter 10 of Genesis. We hear names like the Canaanites, when Moses and the people were wandering for 40 years in the desert. Then they crossed the Jericho River, crossed the Jordan River into Jericho. They crossed that river. Who are they fighting? Who opposes them? The Canaanites and all those other ites. You got all these ites, this ite, that ite, Jebusite, Amorite, right? All these ites are fighting the people that Moses is leading. Oh, they come from chapter 10, way back in Noah's day, right? So in Noah's day, in chapter 10, we're getting all these names, all these pieces. And then we hear that they make a tower, and they call it Babel. We're going to get to that again at the end, but that word Babel in every other place in the Bible is said differently. We'll get to there at the end. But all this is happening in chapter 10, and then at the end of 10, it tells the story of this one guy, Eber. Eber is the word we get Hebrew from. We ever heard of the Israelites called the Hebrews? You've heard of that? Oh, the people are the Hebrew people. We have a book in the New Testament, Hebrews, talking about this cultural group, this ethnic group. Israel is the geographic name. Hebrew is the cultural, ethnic name of the people of Israel. So we have this guy named Eber who is the Hebrews, and he's got two sons, Peleg and Joktan. And then in the rest of chapter 10 ends with telling us the story of Joktan's family. Peleg and Joktan. We have Joktan's family. We don't hear anything about Peleg except his name. His name is divided. Well, now if I'm reading some really smart literature, and we have all these names, but this one is giving me the meaning, but the other's not. I don't know what Joktan means. It doesn't tell me. It tells me what Peleg means. Divided. We're going to hear a story, the author's telling me, you're going to hear a story about the split, the division. There are two lines going forward that will matter, and the division's right here. Peleg is one line of people. Joktan is another line of people. So Joktan's line comes to an end, and it ends the story of genealogies with Joktan's line, and then we have chapter 11. We have a story of a people opposing God. We know that. You all know that. You've known that since childhood, that this is a story about people opposing God. But see what the opposition is. Let's dive back into chapter 11. Verse 3. And they said to one another, this people, this tribe, this people from Joktan, the people that are all gathered together here, in their houses, in their tribes, around each other. They said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. So brick and clay and mortar, they made bricks to build things. Then they said, verse 4, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. Sometimes we read that at the top in the heavens and we think, oh, well, they're trying to reach heaven or they make themselves gods. And that's really taking it too far. It is prideful to do this, but it's not about trying to be God or something. But the idea is they want to reach the clouds, reach the skies. They think we want to reach the skies. We want to be the tallest thing. We want to be so high that the whole earth can see this. The point is to be a rallying point, a central point that the whole earth can see. We want to build a tower that every human, all humanity can see and rally around. That's the idea. It's top in the heavens. And let us make a name for ourselves. We'll get back to that. Then the end of the same sentence, build a tower on top of the heavens, make a name for ourselves. The third part of the sentence, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. This is why they built the tower. Here's the whole, get in the minds of the people. They're gathered now, there's generations and generations and tons of people. They're all having lots of kids and kids are having kids and huge amount of people covering this whole plain, this whole geographic thing, this massive amount of people. And as they gather and as they grow, they are becoming in a place where they are too big. And what will keep them unified? What will keep them together? They're worried about being able to stay together and continue growing and building and being who they are. Now remember who they are. We don't know exactly what generation from Noah this is happening. But not too long, because again, they're not spread out yet. They are telling themselves stories around the campfire of how great-granddaddy Noah got through a flood. Like, this is still family stories. This is not ancient history to the people in this building the tower. It's not like us talking about, like Roman times or something, the Colosseum, like something ancient. It is still family history within a number of generations that they can count and remember. They can go back to Noah, and Noah telling their sons and grandsons and great-grandsons. Remember, Noah lived 300 years after the flood. He's got 300 years to tell kids and kids and kids and kids, hey, this is how the ark happened. The people building this tower know the story of the ark. They know that humanity got so against God, got so rebellious to God, that God came and wiped them out with the chaos, evil waters of death and washed them away. They know that happened. It's not a fairy tale. They are within a generation or two of it being told and passed down to them that this is real human history that happened. They know about God, his power, his righteousness, what he stands for and what he doesn't. They know what he'll do when he gets really mad. They know who this God is and what he can do. I want to contrast that a little bit with kind of us today. We walk around and tell people about Jesus. I hope you walk around and tell people about Jesus. And as we do, people argue, well, Jesus did this or that. He lived 2,000 years. Was he a real man? Is he someone's imagination? Can you trust what the Bible says? You've heard all the arguments about who Jesus is and anybody can trust him. People walk around, oh, he was a really nice guy that did cool things, but that's it. No, he was God. But, oh, he's made up. The apostles made him up. People say that today. No, he's a real person that lived and died and rose again. But in our day, it's such an old story, happening so long ago in such a far-off place, that part of our struggle and witnessing is it's myth, it's fairy tale to a lot of people that are our friends, right? It's a fairy tale to them. Christmas and Easter and Bunny and Santa Claus are more real than Jesus. Or they equate Jesus with those things, right? Because it's all fairy tale. It's harder for us to say. That's not what's happening in Genesis 11. I say all that to draw the contrast. It's not fairy tale or ancient history. It is modern history. It is knowable. It is great-grandparents are telling them stories that they lived through. Right? It's like if you still know someone that fought in World War II or lived through the Depression, that generation's still around or at the very end, like they lived it and are telling you the story. It's real. That's what's happening. That's how close it is. So they know God, they know his wrath, they know his power, they know what he can do. And what they decide, this is the entire understanding of the heart of this people is right here. Knowing God and his power and his abilities and his wrath, what they decided to do was centralize themselves, gather and fortify themselves, and build a tower that they could rally around and draw all together and be unified in making a name for themselves. That's what they did. They said, the way we're going to survive God, the way we're going to beat the next flood, the way we're going to make it so that can't happen to us again is we will fortify ourselves. We will rally, and human strength and human ingenuity will overcome God. That's what the Tower of Babel is about. They built a tower to the heavens so that no matter where they went, living or hunting or building, or as their clans grew and they spread out, if they needed to rally to oppose God and stand off his wrath, they could rally to the tower and there face God and win, they think. They could face God at this tower and they will make a name for themselves. Making a name is not simply being famous. Making a name is making a stand, making a priority, making an importance, making a declaration. I am this. I am this name. We are this. We are this as opposed to that. We stand under this name. This name is our banner. This name is our fortress. This name is our identity. They are making a name for themselves and a tower to rally around because they know about God. Do you see the twistedness there? Do you see the evil there? Not being ignorant of God and they do something foolish, because they know God, because they understand his power and wrath, their answer is to oppose him more. Their answer is to believe their unity is strong enough to oppose and stand against God. They think they can beat him. Now, get past for a moment the silliness, the absolute ludicrousness of thinking they can beat God. Get past that for a minute. Why do they want to? Why is their initial feeling, why is their gut reaction to beat him, to oppose him, to be against him? Do you see the twistedness there? Do you see the real heart condition of humanity there? Not just that they think they can win, which is crazy, but they want to win against God. They place themselves up in opposition. Brothers and sisters, this story coming at the conclusion of the beginning. We've seen this theme from Adam and Eve. They ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil because God said, don't eat from that. I know what's good and evil, and I'll tell you. Trust me. And they said, no, God, I want to know for myself. And they opposed God and wanted their own knowledge. The Tower of Babel is the same thing. God, I could flood the earth, follow me or die, follow me or your life is over. He said, no, God, I'm going to oppose you and do what I think's best. It's the same story. It's the same story today. Like, do you see that? It's the same story. Life in the middle is still building towers saying we can take care of ourselves. We don't need God. God, you've got rules, you've got a word, you've got, you died on the cross, you did, but I don't need that. I don't need you. I don't want you. I will do it on my own. And living life now opposed to God, rallying around human civilization, rallying around human ingenuity and saying, this will save me, this will protect me, this will give me my life. To do that is as silly as thinking you could beat a God who flooded the world. And as heartbreaking as seeing people who think they can overcome God. That's the story of humanity today. And what we'll see as we finish the end in the next few weeks is that story continues to the end. So God ends that strain of human virus in our hearts that does that. God will bring that to an end. But until the end, he doesn't. So that's part of this story. Part of the story is warning us and causing us to remember. There's no excuses for opposing God. It's not because of ignorance or just being silly or whatever. It is direct, purposeful opposition. Humanity wants to build a name for itself. Instead of being under the name of God, humans want a name for themselves. And so that's what they do. And they do it, and this word comes up 3 times now. They do it so they won't be dispersed over the face of the earth. So that's 3 times. The first time is there. The humans say, we'll build a tower, we'll make a name for ourselves so we won't be dispersed. The idea is, if we get spread out too thin, we ain't going to be able to be God. He's going to be too much for us. We can do it all together, but if we get spread out too thin, we can't win. So their whole thing is not about unity. They're not trying to build a utopia. It's none of that. It's not like kumbaya. It's none of that. They think, they know God's strength and power, and they believe the only way we are strong enough is if we are together. If we're all together, then we're strong enough. So we need to build a tower and make a name, because if we don't, we're growing, our families are growing so fast, if we spread out too thin, then we're going to lose. So their whole point of this is to create a space on earth that humanity can stand opposed to God and win. That's what they're doing. That's the whole point. They don't want to be dispersed. So, continue the story. That's their hope. They begin building. They're building this place for a name to stand united against God. Verse 5. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of man had built. Children of man, throwback to Genesis chapter 3, the curse of the snake and stuff there. There's a connection there. You can look it up later. Verse 6, the Lord said, behold, they are one people. They have all one language. This is only the beginning of what they will do, and nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. God is not saying, oh, they might beat me. He's not saying that. He's not worried, if they get to do this, maybe I'm in trouble. That's not what he's saying. He's not saying that they can do anything like miracles. They can't just do anything. What he means is their ability to oppose, their ability to stand in rebellion, their ability to continue to be my enemy will be unstoppable if they unite and reinforce it over and over and over again. What he's speaking about here is not their actual ability to do things. He's saying humanity will never be broken of their rebellion. There's no silver lining. There's no light that can break through the darkness in humanity. Humanity is wholly lost. There's nothing that will stop them from being my enemy. Nothing can stop them from that. If this is how they're going, if their decision is to unite and to build on each other's hatred and rebellion, build and build and build, and grow this rebellion to such an extent that it is the very heart of everything, and they build this, nothing's going to break that wall down, that wall of their hatred, that wall of their rebellion. There's no human help to that. So that's what God's saying. He is pitying them. I imagine even some sorrow for them. You are killing yourselves, God's saying. There's no hope for you if you stay like this. It's a sad state that God comes down and sees and declares. Verse 7, come, let us go down there and confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. Language here is a key to the idea. It's not simply learning new words, because they could. Right? I mean, many of you in this room know more than one language. Like, they could learn languages. It's not about the language simply that now I can't talk to them. In the immediate, yes. In the very immediate, they can't talk. It's going to make things harder. But if they hung around for 20 more years, they'd learn each other's languages. Like, they'd be fine. We do it today. It's not about that. But the language and speech thing in Genesis 11, it's about the unity. It's about the having the same, not just the same physical symbols that make words. It's the same, we speak the same way. Right? You get that kind of the colloquial meaning of that? Like, oh, like me and my buddy, like we got the same language. Like down in Dallas, everyone around me, we had the same language, right? And here, I speak a foreign language here. Fly, eagles, fly, I don't even know what that means. Like it's a weird language, right? That's what he means here. It's the colloquial, right? Yes, their actual words and symbols are different. They're getting different sounds. The language is actually different. But the depth of the meaning, what it really means is they're talking the same language, and so they can keep building and working against me. So he confuses it. I like that he uses it. He doesn't just change it, he confuses it. He makes them not really be on the same page. That's what it means. They're not really on the same page anymore because they're talking differently. Physically talking differently, but even like intentionally. They're talking differently now. They're confusing each other because they have different goals and plans and different ideas. They're confused. So that's what God does. He confuses them. And then let's continue it to finish what he does. So he confuses their language. Verse 8. So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth. Right? They said, build a tower so we don't get dispersed. Same word. God confuses their language and then disperses them. What they were trying to avoid, God does to them, right? They want to get out of it by opposing him. God comes down and does exactly what they're afraid of. And they left off building the city, verse 9. Therefore, its name, the name of this city they built was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language. So the word Babel and confuse, the word for confuse, sound almost exactly the same. Babel, Balal. Babel, Balal. It's almost the same sounding word. So of confusion and Babel. So the city was called Babel because there the Lord Balal confused their language. And from there, the third time, and from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth. So let's do all these things so we can be united and not spread too thin. So God's answer is, all right, I'm going to make you not talk to each other and spread you too thin. And then it concludes with, and God spread that too thin. Like it just repeats it. It makes the point. Why does it repeat it? When the Bible repeats something, pay attention. All right, that's your Bible lesson for the day. If it's repeated, it matters a lot. So, God comes down and he spreads them too thin. Now, what I want you to see is kind of the last piece of the meaning of this is that they're united under language and the same ideas, same language and the way they talk about things, being on the same page in opposition to God. Their desire to build a tower to rally around, to have a rally point to fight God, their desire for that. Their desire to build their own name and make their own name their banner. And their desire to not be dispersed so they can come together to do all this, that is the fullest extent of evil that there is. That's the fullest extent of lostness that there is. That's the fullest extent of hopelessness. But they think it's their answer. It's so important to understand that. They think it's the answer, but it is the worst place to be in. Rallied around a human-built tower, standing united in opposition to God, with our name replacing God's. That's where they are. And what God does is, he doesn't wipe them out. He doesn't start back up with Noah or pick a guy there. He doesn't do that. God acts in amazing patience and grace and mercy. What's going to stop them from having such a dark city that no light can get in, being united? What does God do? He scatters them. The scattering makes their opposition weaker. They still hate God, but now they have holes in their defenses. Now a missionary might crawl in, right? Now someone who knows God might get a word in edgewise. Now someone with a different perspective that comes from righteousness might get a word in the argument because their defenses are scattered. The scattering is an act of judgment. I'm not letting you be together. Togetherness is better. The church is a gathered people together. Gathered is better. But gathered in opposition is terrible. So in grace, he judges that gathering of evil, but he does it in a way that provides hope and a way for righteousness in. He scatters them. We are a line of people birthed by faith. Jesus and the disciples, and they preached and wrote and taught. And people that believed were born again into the line of Jesus. And those people preached and taught and wrote and preached and taught and wrote, and it reached us. Someone, somewhere, brought you into the family of Jesus. You are in the lineage, the genealogy by faith of Jesus. You're in his family. We are the one family that knows God. The world stands opposed, seeking its own name, trying to rally around its own human intuition to make a name for themselves, to hold it all together. But God has scattered them. And then we are spread all out with them. See that? You live among people that are in opposition to God, but they don't have a fort against you. They don't have walls you can't get through. You were in the houses of some of them. You were sitting in cubicles next to some of them. You stand at a cash register at work next to some of them. You go to school, and the person at the desk next to you, students, is one of them. They're scattered. And we are infiltrating. We are the army of God, infiltrating, present. The light, the hope, the living water from Jesus is who we are, infiltrating this darkness. By the grace of God and the power of God, by his wisdom and not ours, by his greatness and not ours, we are placed in where the Holy Spirit can shine through you and me. But gathering still matters. We gather not just Sunday mornings, but we gather because this is our people. We who follow Christ are one people, and we gather to grow, to learn, to encourage, to love, to serve, to be rebuked and corrected when necessary. We gather, and then we go out. Chapter 10 told us where they went. 11's how they got there, right? Or their identity, their character. Chapter 10 told us they went everywhere. Chapter 10 says they spread out over the whole face of the earth. Jesus says to us, go and make disciples of all nations. Everywhere these tower builders went, everywhere these people want their own name, everywhere they went, the whole earth, we are gathered as God's people. And then from this place of safety and gathering, Jesus, by his great commission, sends us to the ends of the earth where they are, so that they may see the light and hear the good news and be gathered back into God's fold, into his sheepfold, into his pen, where we live and where we are comforted and learn. Life in the middle is being God's family sent to the dispersed enemies, to the dispersed Babel builders. That's what life in the middle is. Being dispersed to them, who God scattered by grace so that they could be infiltrated and taught. And this lesson, this idea is carried all the way through. I want to read one passage in Nehemiah. It'll come up on the screen or you can turn there. It's Nehemiah chapter 1. In Nehemiah, what's happening is that Nehemiah is after we hear about Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel in the lion's den, right? All that stuff, right? That whole time period, Israel gets destroyed by Babylon, who takes them all away. And they're there. Nehemiah is in the foreign land. He's away from Israel. He's in the foreign land. And some people have gone back to Israel, and they're struggling. And Israel is a waste. It's a terrible place. It's ruined. Nehemiah hears about it, and he's heartbroken. Verse 4, chapter 1, verse 4, Nehemiah. As soon as I heard these words about how terrible it was, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven. And I said, here's his prayer that sets up the whole book of Nehemiah. Verse 5, and I said, O Lord God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments. Let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer of your servants that I now pray before you day and night for the people of Israel, your servants, confessing the sins of the people of Israel, which we have sinned against you. Even I and my father's house have sinned. We have acted very corruptly against you and have not kept the commandments, the statutes, and the rules that you commanded your servant Moses. All right, right there, he's praying, look, God, I know we've been scattered, we've been sent away, we've been pushed out because we also were in opposition to you. Even the nation of Israel fought God. And the result was they were scattered to Babylon, scattered to exile. Right? God scatters those in opposition so they cannot stand united against him. He scattered even his own people as they sinned, which he just confessed. Verse 8, here it is. Remember the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the peoples. But if you return to me and keep my commandments and do them, though your outcasts are in the uttermost parts of heaven, from there I will gather them and bring them to the place that I've chosen to make my name dwell there. Every idea of Genesis 11 is right here in Nehemiah's prayer. An opposition and enemies of God, walking into darkness, hating God, opposing him. What God does, God scatters. And Nehemiah's prayer is, your promise, God, is even though you scatter us in our opposition, if we turn back to you, you will gather us back. And you will gather us where your name dwells. What does it mean to be human? It means to be gathered with God and his people where his name dwells. That's what we're made to be. That's where we're meant to be. That's how we're fully alive, living under the name, the banner, the priority, the first importance, the name of God, gathering us under that. Scattered when we're in opposition, gathered when we're together. Chapter 11 ends after the whole story of the Tower of Babel. We go back to that family that had the two sons. In chapter 10, we have the Hebrews, Hebrew. He's got Peleg and Joktan. Peleg is divided. So we have divided and Joktan. And then we hear Joktan's family, and we hear the opposition of Babel. We hear the opposition of those who hate God. They're rallying against God. We hear that line. That is done with. They're scattered over the face of the earth. Now all of those people in opposition have been scattered so that they can no longer be as much of a force. They are broken down and scattered. And then the story goes right from that amazing, huge, tremendous event. Oh yeah, Peleg. Remember Peleg? And he had a kid, and he had a kid, and he had a kid. And the end of that line is Abraham. The end of chapter 11 leaves us with Abram, whose name is changed to Abraham later, but Abraham as we know him. The divided line is Joktan, who stands opposed to God, building towers in opposition. And the other side is Abraham, the one who's called, and the whole earth will be blessed through him. That is the first idea of the middle. That is the world that we know it. The people of Joktan and Babel, and the people of Peleg and Abraham, who through faith believed what God had said. Brothers and sisters, that is all of humanity right now today. The people of Babel and the people of Abraham. That is the entire human history and population. Know where you are as a believer. The family of Peleg, the family of Abraham, the family of faith, the family of walking with God. And we are in the midst of a scattered and dispersed people who hate God, and our role is to bring the light and the truth of Jesus, the Son of God, to this people dispersed and unable to make a stand, but yet hating God and need to know the light. We are Abraham's children, bringing that light to the ends of the earth. And to connect to next week, the Tower of Babel, that word Babel, in every other place in the Bible, it is spoken as Babylon. It's the same thing. The Tower of Babylon, which becomes the country of Babylon, led by Nebuchadnezzar, who destroys Israel, who in in Revelation chapter 17, next week's text, Babylon is the entity that kills the followers of Jesus and is drunk on the blood of the martyrs. Babylon is the enemy of Revelation. Starts in Genesis 11, the beginning. The beginning ends showing us where Babylon comes from. The opposition to God, where it's from, how it got there, what to do, and our answer to it. Witness in its dispersion. Chapter 11, the beginning ends with knowing it's there. We live all of human history being the light to the Babylonians who built a tower, who opposed God. And at the end, God will fully deal with and bring an end to and bring restitution to Babylon and to his people that stood opposed. It stood against the teachings of Babylon and spoke the truth into it. The end is the answer to Babylon's evil and the restoration of God's truth over all that is human. It's a name for ourselves as humans, or it's the name of God. The Babylonians want their own name. God's people want the name of God. And that battle, that truth, that back and forth is all of human history from Genesis 11 to the end of Revelation. Until next week, we'll see where it ends and how it goes. And more again, as people living in the midst of this struggle. What do we do? How do we live? Where do we find hope and power in the midst of it? That's the story of the beginning and the end. Pray with me. Jesus, you are holy and righteous and true. Your name is above all names. Your name is the greatest name. There is no other name under heaven whereby people can be saved. Your name is the name of hope and salvation and life. Lord God, guide us, direct us, empower us to reject any other name but yours. Lord, help me to reject my name over yours, my wants over yours, my control over yours. Help me to submit to your name and all of us in your church, Jesus. By your love and grace we live. Amen.